Hello all. In this video we are going to learn about Python programming, why Python is used for data science, the full stack data science course. Before we proceed, let me take you through the agenda for the first part of Python programming, which is required for data science project. Here we are going to cover right from the basic for those who don't have any Python programming experience and perhaps no experience in any programming language. This is the programming, this is the session where we are going to learn about Python right from the basics. So very basic programming concepts we will be talking in this video, and then gradually we will move on to some of the advanced concepts, and then we will move on to some of the data science related libraries and packages. Okay, so before we move on, let's understand why Python is much popular today, why the software development community or the data scientists across the globe, why they prefer Python as a programming language for data science projects. Right, so right then after this introduction to programming, we will discuss about the IDEs, which is commonly used in the industry, then the basic programming concepts, the constructs, variables, identifiers, and the indentation, the statements, conditional and loops in programming, along with some of the core data structures in Python programming, that is list, tuple, dictionary, set, and then we will learn some of the comprehension techniques, then functions, lambda functions, map, reduce, and so on. Okay, so file handling is something we need to learn as well, and we have some object-oriented programming concepts, some hands-on on that, and let's learn about how to create your customized data types in Python and implement using object-oriented programming concepts and the exception handling. So let's move on. First of all, this is the question, okay, which I asked when I really started working on Python 5 years ago, when I was very new to the data science, though my work was involved extensively into some kind of data analytics tools, but we were moving towards Python 5 years ago, right? So that was the first question, right? Why Python? Okay, so definitely you might be having so many answers to this, right? So the very first answer I listened from so many of my students is Python is simple and easy to learn, right? And that's exactly what I realized over the years, and many people who started learning this as their first programming language, and they have also experienced this, that this particular programming language, Python, is a very simple programming language to learn. Right, anybody can read. It's very much comfortable programming language. Anyone can read. It is like a broken English language, right? Someone can read and easily understand what this programming or what this particular statement is is having written for, right? So easy to read, easy to write code. It's a simple, neat, clean programming language, and there are so many other reasons why Python is used. So another important reason is Python is free and open source programming language. Okay, so a lot of libraries, so much of advancements happened over the last couple of decades. So this programming language is not a new programming language. This has been there for more than 3 decades, and today if you see the evolution, if you see the enhancements happened in this particular modular programming language has taken the position in the market where everybody prefers this as a programming language for their data science projects. Okay, so easy syntax, and it is a high level programming language. Okay, so it is like Python or Java or C++, so all these are high level programming languages. So it is simple, it is interpreted as well as compiled programming language. That's why it is a scripting as well as a programming. Okay, so this can be used as a general purpose programming language, like we use for any backend application development, web development, or your client and server application. So any software we can write using this particular programming language, right? So in fact, Python needs less number of lines as compared to any other probably if you compare with C++ or Java. So it takes 1/3 of lines of the code if I want to write the same thing in Python as compared to Java and C++. Okay, this is high level, this is powerful, this is a stable programming language and supports object-oriented programming concepts, right? So it is procedural and modular and functional and supporting object-oriented. So this makes this particular programming language a general purpose programming language which can be used for any kind of a software if you want to think about. Okay. Another important feature is portability. This has been a concern for many years, especially when there was C and the C++. So those programming languages were not platform independent, right? So like Java is a platform independent, right? So Python is platform independent as well. So if I write a program on my Linux system on particular Python version, the same can work on any other operating system, right? Be it a Mac or Windows. So we can use that. So that's the portability where the program will run without any modifications on any platform. Okay. So as I said, it supports different programming paradigms where the object-oriented programming is been the core of Python. So everything is object in Python, and it supports modularity, it supports sequential programming, it supports scripting, it supports the functional style of coding. So that's what this particular programming language becomes more popular, right? So extensibility, this is been a concern for many people generally who are working on a legacy software. So it's not easy to adopt such a new inventions or new programming languages coming in the market, right? So Python has the extensibility feature. Even if you have a software written in C or C++ or Java for maybe decades old legacy softwares, so the same can be integrated easily with a new piece of software which you probably want to write using Python. So that is possible because of the extensibility feature of Python, where we can write some code and easily plug it to the existing legacy system with the help of some of the packages available for Python. So that makes this programming language a choice for many software community today. This programming also supports automatic garbage collection. So this programming language has a lot of advanced packages for data analytics like NumPy, Pandas, or data visualization like Matplotlib, Seaborn, Plotly. It has a machine learning libraries like scikit-learn, so data exploration, data mining, data profiling. So there are so many libraries are available. One can easily go and use them to solve their problems, right? So hence this programming language can be used in many domains. It can be used in robotics, in the machine learning, in the biometric or natural language processing, or if you are working on web development applications, you can go and use something called Django. It's a framework, web development framework. We can use for end-to-end web development. Boto 3 if you are working with AWS or any cloud technologies, there are relevant packages available. This is the programming language. A lot of companies adopt this, use this for their industrial digitization, for their automation, for smart manufacturing. So whatever is the domain, whatever is the industry, today Python becomes one of the most popular programming language, right? So who all use this programming language? I have tried to just capture some of the glimpse, or who all have been using this programming language for years. YouTube, you might have heard about this, right? So YouTube is a video sharing system, okay, which is developed based on the Django framework, and that is purely a Python based software development, right? Google also make use of extensive use of Python for their web search engines. and Dropbox, the client and server is written primarily in Python, right? So Raspberry Pi, you might have heard about this as well. It's a single board computer which uses the Python for doing any kind of robotic systems, right? So there's a torrent for peer-to-peer file system, NASA, then NSA. So all these companies also use Python for their security and cryptography programming tasks, and Netflix also uses Python for their the system which is the recommendation system is well known by Netflix, and a lot of other components are written by Python, right? So list is huge. In fact, I did not want to put this slide. The reason is because every company today they are using Python, right? So we can't really list down here, though be it a small company or a big company, big giant. So these companies uses Python programming language. Okay, some or the other way they are using this programming language to solve their software needs. Okay, so this is the reason Python is becoming much popular, and the default standard programming language for many users. Okay, so there is an installation. I would like to highlight some of the basic things about installing this particular programming language. You may visit python.org, that is the official site of Python, where you will see some very good documentation and the latest version of Python release. Okay, today Python 3.8.5. okay, that's the latest version of Python. You go and click here and you get automatically downloading this particular software, right? So if you are using using any other operating system, if suppose you are using Mac, you will download the automatically it downloads the installer for Mac. If you are using Windows system, it automatically downloads the executable which is developed for Windows systems, right? So one can easily download the latest version 3.8.5, and if you are on Windows, just double click, or Mac, it's just a double click and you are good to install this, right? So very simple installation, guys. So one can easily install, and right then they can start using this particular programming Python interpreter and the compiler, right? So this is the basic about where you find, and one more important thing I would like to mention here is the documentation, right? So Python has a very good documentation, right? Here you get a lot of basic insights along with the examples, where if somebody wants to learn or they can probably refer this particular documentation for their daily needs. Okay, so you can probably try and search something, and you would learn something out of whatever object you are really trying to explore for, or if you are trying to learn some new concept. So this is kind of a Bible where you have a huge amount of documentation you can refer to. Okay, so you can go here. Yeah, I think this is the link here. If you click, this takes you to the documentation part for Python 3, and there is another tab, pypy.org. That is where you will find some of the repository. Okay, so repository for the various packages. So we will discuss the PyPy later on when we discuss about the packages. So for example, string, I just search one simple object which we might want to explore and understand how somebody can use strings in Python. So you will get a lot of documentation, and you can see, go through this. You will understand what is the formatting, how the string is used, how the operators can be used with the string, right? So many things around string. Okay, along with some examples, right? Very good examples. So for that matter, you can search for anything. Okay, if you search anything on this documentation, it is handy, a quick help you can get. For example, list. Okay, so we definitely are going to learn about different data structures in this course, but I just thought of sharing you. This is the very good documentation you will find for various the topics which you want to probably explore. Okay, so that is about the basic installer, and there is some something called Anaconda. Okay, if you have heard about this, this is the software, a suite of softwares where we get some of the popularly used IDEs available in the market, right? So Anaconda is a suite of softwares. You go to this anaconda.com, it's the official site of Anaconda. You click on download, it takes you to the page where you will find the downloadables for your operating system. Okay, so whatever OS you are using, so you can go ahead and install. This is quite a big software compared to the normal Python, but yeah, you take this, maybe you can install this downloader if you are on Windows or if you are on Mac OS. You can easily install this. So on my system it is already installed, so I'm not going to download this again because this is a quite huge, it's more than 450 MB software. So I avoid downloading this, but this is the way you could download. And once you download and start, so this software, the Anaconda Navigator looks like this. Okay, where you will find some of the other softwares or the IDEs available inside this software suite, right? So here you see that there is something called Jupyter Lab, there is something called Jupyter Notebook. We're not going to use Qt Console or Orange or Blueview, so we are not going to use that. But yes, Spider is one of the IDE I wanted to show you. RStudio, if you are working on R, VS Code, so those are some of the packages. If you are interested, you can explore. But today, a couple of things we are going to explore. That is, one is the Spider. Okay, Spider is a very good IDE that is integrated development environment for software development community. So we can use Spider, that is one. The second option is you can use Jupyter Notebook. Okay, Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab. Okay, no difference. Both are same. The Jupyter Lab, it just helps us to manage little more Jupyter notebooks in the single view, right? Let me open all these things and I will quickly help you understand or have a look at these packages or these IDEs. Here I go and I can see that the moment I click on Jupyter Notebook, this is a web-based interface. It gives us to open your any Python code if you want to write. So basically you can browse on your desktop folders or wherever you want to go. Otherwise it goes to the default path, and then you click on Python 3. This takes you to the actual IDE, right? So that's it, guys. So simple, very handy and simple to use IDE called Jupyter Notebook. So this is a cell. Here I can write a simple code, hello world, and you are done, right? So that's as simple as that. I type the code here in the cell. I can write one line or I can write 2 lines of code. Okay, so you can write anything if you want. End of program. Okay, so let's say, so and you are done, right? So how I'm typing is, see, I type a code here and then there is an option to run. Okay, you can probably use this option. So I use some shortcuts on the keyboard. I press shift enter and this program, this particular cell gets executed, right? So here if I have 2 lines, doesn't matter, this whole thing gets executed as well when I press shift enter on the keyboard. Okay, so here if I am at the end, shift enter will just generate create another cell below that, and you can keep on typing. You can keep typing many lines into a single cell. Okay, there is no restriction, or you can write small lines into the into each of these cells. Okay, so a very simple code, one liner, anybody can understand, and you are done, right? So if you have any background or basic understanding how we write such a hello world program in other programming languages like C++ or Java, okay, I'm sure this takes at least 3 lines or 4 lines of code to print something on the screen, isn't it, right? So here it is pretty simple. Print is a built-in function and one liner and you are done. Okay, that's as simple as one can think about. Okay, so this is how we can use a Jupyter notebook. Okay, I'll come to this section once again and we will discuss more. Before that, let me move on and explain you how the other IDEs looks like. For example, Jupyter Lab, right? The moment you click on this launch button here, so a similar interface is opened here, and this is more like the tab, multiple tabs provided for you to write multiple Jupyter notebooks in the single view. Okay, so see, this is the second Jupyter notebook I could open in the same view or in the same browser's tab. Okay, so no difference, all the keys and the processes or all the options are provided are exactly same as what we have seen in Jupyter notebook. Okay, and the third is about Spyder. As we discussed, Spyder is another IDE which is very similar to any other IDE. If you have some understanding about IDEs like Eclipse for Java, or with some C++ extensions, or maybe C++ or VC++ editors. So this is no different. This is very similar. I can just increase the font. I can keep various files here open. So we can use multiple files here. We can open. We can write little more code here. Okay, welcome to Spyder. Okay, so this is your first program. Print. This is your first program on Spyder. Okay, so you may have something more. If maybe you can write some variable here, x equal to 10, and if x is greater than 20, print x is greater. Okay, or you may have else and print x is smaller than 20. Okay, so for that matter you can write anything. I'm just taking a simple example to make you understand how this IDE looks like. End of program. So hold on, I'm not yet discussed about some of the syntax, what this indentation is, what this colon is doing here, what this if statement does and how it works. So I guess many of you could understand as well. This is pretty straightforward, simple to learn and understand. But still, let me just run this, and I see that these are the lines. This is the piece of code which is getting executed, right? And I see that the output here. Okay, so very simple IDE. One can use this. One can run any program, any big program you can write, or you can manage your entire project with multiple files in the this Spyder IDE. Okay. Moreover, this IDE can also be used for debugging purpose, right? We are not going to discuss today, at least in the basic sessions. But yeah, debugging is something we can put some breakpoint. We can control your entire flow of your program execution, right? So for the developers, for someone who write the long code, bigger code, and for the runtime exceptions or some kind of logical issues, we have to debug such softwares, right? And IDEs provide something called debugging techniques, right? So we can debug this program, control the execution on the runtime. Okay, so that's another advantage of using Spyder. Okay, so these are some of the IDEs. We are going to use Jupyter for our practice, but yeah, if you are interested in using other IDE, feel free to use that, right? There's no restriction and there's no difference in terms of your coding. Okay. So this is about a brief understanding on what the different IDEs are available, how to check some of the documentation. So explore this. You may come up with some questions. So explore this, and then only you'll understand how this this whole thing works. Okay. Before I move on, let me take you through some of the basic things. I know this could be kind of a repetition or revision for many of you, because no new concept we are talking here. If you have some other programming background, so more or less this is how the variables we declare, we use, and we can assign some value to some variables, and you can process these variables and some of the keywords and the names of the variable and executions and some of the operators, very similar to any other programming languages if you are aware of. Okay, for example, x equal to 10 or y equal to 2, and you can just print x and you get the value of x, or if you print y you get the value of y, that is 2. Correct? So the best part here you might have observed is like we do similar thing in C programming, we have to specify the type of the object, but here we don't have to specify the type of the object. Okay, x is automatically considered as a string object inside internally by Python interpreter, because obviously we are assigning a string integer number into x. The moment I have something, suppose a equal to 1.5, and if I check what is the type of a, so this time it is not an integer but it is a float. Correct? So reason is now a is having a value called value of 1.5, and 1.5 is a floating point number, right? So that's a primitive data type which is used, right? Similarly, if I go and type Python is fun, so that's where I see that type of s is obviously it's a string now, right? So this is how we can have some basic stuff. Okay, you can have any value, okay, and any big number you can very well assign to this this particular data, this particular variable type, and it is still a type of integer object. And if you print something, this is optional here. If I print, or if I simply write a, so it is going to print the value, right? So this is a huge number, right? So if I do any arithmetic operations on this, I can very well get this executed. See, this was the number and I have added 1 to this number, and the operation has success here, right? So I can see that B is now having this big number, at the last digit is 4, right? So that's how one can use such a powerful programming language, I would say, and it has the capability to hold any kind of a big number or any kind of a string without specifying the type of the object. Okay, it implicitly decides which type of the object we are referring to. Okay, for example, let's say I have another couple of variables here, let's say 80 drivers, and print I want to say just a moment, yeah, I want to use carpool capacity. Okay, is let's say drivers into 4, right? So that's how one can calculate the carpool capacity. Okay, so these are called variables. So rules are simple, rules are almost similar in any other programming languages for variable names. So name has to be the alphanumeric string which can include only the special character, that is underscore. Other than underscore, no special character is allowed in the name of a variable. Variable means an identifier which we can use to refer to a particular memory where we store the data, right? For example, here 100 is an integer object we store in memory, and cars is the name by which we refer to this piece of memory. Okay, and those names are called variables. Okay, the name, the rules is simple. Variable names should be alphanumeric characters. So it's a collection of characters which should not have any special character other than underscore, right? And also it should not start with a numeric value, a number, right? But yes, number can be there. So suppose cars 5 is a valid valid variable, but 5 cars is not a valid variable. Okay, so that's something that we have to understand. And we can use this variable names to hold any type of object. There is no restriction, and variable names are case sensitive. If I use small driver, and if I try to use driver with D capital, it won't understand what this driver is, that is with D capital, right? So that is something we have to understand as well. So I'm maintaining this Jupyter notebook which we can share along with this video, so that this is something you can use for your references, right, or your practice. So That's how these two variables we hold, and this is how we print. It is not only a string we are printing here, but we are printing whatever we put into double quote or single quote is printed as it is, and the drivers, which is the variable which interpreter now knows, because we have already run that somewhere above before this statement. So drivers will be substituted with the value of the integer which is stored in this particular reference, right? So multiplication by 4, okay, that's a basic arithmetic operation. Okay, so we can do this, let's say multiple variables we can write, for example hello world, so this is possible, or you may want to write hello world in a single string, and this is also possible, right? There is no difference. That means we will use multiple arguments to the function, that is built-in function called print. Okay, so there is a shortcut to look at the help page of any such built-in functions or built-in attributes. So you go and click on the print, let's say, and then shift tab in the Jupyter notebook. Shift tab gives you a quick help about this particular function, right? So this print function prints the values to a stream, that is output, standard output it is printing, right, by default. So there are some optional optional arguments as well, so we are not going to discuss now, but as and when we need, we will discuss later on. Okay, so shift tab is the shortcut, or you may use help function, right? Help also gives you a quick description about any such built-in objects. Okay, so what all things we have learned today out of a built-in function is print is a built-in function, type is a built-in function, and help is another built-in function, right? So these are some of the built-in functions we have learned so far, correct? So these are built-in functions. Okay, so let's discuss few more going forward, and then I would like to summarize as well. So this is how we can use, so there is also an alternate way to use the print. Let's say number of drivers are, I want to print those drivers, and cars are this much, right? So we can use a string format function to substitute the drivers and cars based on the position holders which we use. Okay, now this format is not a built-in function. Okay, we are yet to discuss what is string, but this belongs to a string object. So just hold on, I will be discussing about the format function later on, but for now just understand that whatever arguments are provided in this particular function, those arguments are substituted wherever there is a curly brace open and close without anything in that. Okay, so drivers is put here and the cars is put here. Okay, so that's how the substitution happens. That's how one can use. There's an alternative to this as well. Suppose you have this sequence. Okay, cars and drivers, you can very well maintain the sequence with the help of the argument sequence numbers, right? So the 0th argument will be put at 0 here whenever you put inside, and the first will be first, and so on, right? You can have any number of arguments for that matter. Okay, so this is how we use print, and also let's say I want to use take the input from the user. There is another built-in function called input. Okay, which is a blocking function. The moment we run input function, so it will prompt user to give something from the keyboard, right, from the external. Suppose I press 49 and check what is the value of num, and I can see that I can see that the 45 is stored inside num. Okay, so that's how the integer the input function works. So in our list we have one more built-in function called input. Okay, but if you check and try to see what num is, you will observe that this is a string, right? But we have entered a number, right? So as we said, interpreter does automatically the type assignment. So if it is a numeric data, it will do your numbers, but here you see something different, right? So does that mean is it doing wrong? So let's understand basically what we are actually trying here, right? So num is the variable which is whose value is given by the input function, right? So let's understand and check what input function does, right? It reads the string from the standard input. That means whatever I type on the keyboard, so those keywords or those keys are read as a string, and that is stored in a number. So whatever you are giving as an input, right? So you give a key, you press any character or a number or a special character, so everything will be read as a string by the input function. Okay, so that means it is not the interpreter who decides what is the type based on the input given, but it is the input function which is read by the from the standard input device, and that is read as a stream of bytes and which is stored as a string into the variable which we are assigning to. Okay, so that's why it is the string. So whatever you give, now let's say there is another way, enter a number, right? So we can use an input function with some argument as well, where we can put some text, and this text is useful for the user to understand what is expected. Okay, suppose I give now 46, and now it is easy for us to understand that what I have to do, right? So compared to what we have done here, right? Here you may not really understand what you have to give, right? Whether you should give a number or you should give a name, so you are not sure, right? So yeah, this works here because you are giving Akash, so Akash is read here as it is, and we are printing the same, right? But still it is a type of type is num, and type is string, and you can print the value is Akash, right? But here if you give some text to the user, it is prompted to the user, right? So the user will very well understand that I have to give the number, right? So that's how we can check, but still the type of num is still a string. So obviously there is another conversion function we have, so we can convert any numeric string into a number. Okay, so now it is num which is 71, and it is of type integer. So I repeat this particular piece again, where suppose A is there and I want to convert, let's say, let me do that. So this is the string you have, right? And obviously if I check the type of A, it is a string, right? If I print A, it is a string, no doubt, right? But I know that this is a numbers, right? But somehow we have it of type number integer. So there is a conversion function that is called int, which works on a numeric string. Okay, and the output is now a number, right? So if I assign this to some other value, I can very well see that type of B is now a number and the value is exactly same, right? So this is how we can do some kind of a typecasting, or we can say that this is how we can convert from one data type to another data type, especially the primitive data types. But there are some rules, right? So if I say Akash 5 and if I try to convert this, right, this gives you error because this is not a legitimate action we are trying to make here, right? So Akash 5, it is not a numeric, and we are trying to convert that into a new number, right? So these things are not allowed, and Python is a programming where it automatically detects what you are doing and it throws an exception, right? So something called value error. So all these exceptions are we are going to discuss when we talk about exception handling in Python, but just for your basic understanding, if something goes wrong at the runtime, so this is how it is thrown for the user to understand, right? So then we realize that okay, value is not correct for this integer function, right? So int is another function that is a built-in function we have seen. Okay, so and the list goes on, guys, so we will be learning a lot many such functions going forward. But let's move on and understand. Let's say I have a equal to some value and b another value, right? So we can do some arithmetic operations which we have seen, and suppose I have another string, another variables, that is s1 and s2, and here new learning, right? Let's say if I do s1 plus s2, here the thing is little different, right? So here the magic you can see is the S1 and S2, I'm using the same operator, that is plus operator, and the operands are both the strings, right? So in this case, automatically it concatenates the two strings, and that's obviously we perhaps look for doing the same thing, right? The interpreter does this thing for us. Okay, and if I do the same thing with numbers, and you can very well see that this plus is used to add two numbers when we are using the same operator, but the operands are different. Okay, so that is called implicit polymorphism. Okay, so based on the operands, plus behaves, right? If both the operands are numeric, then plus will work as the addition operator. If both operands are string, then the operator works as a concatenation operation, right? But if you do something like this, so definitely this is not a legitimate action which we probably want to take. Okay, because we don't want to write something like add 5 to a particular string, right? That is not something we usually do, right? But yes, if you want to just say that Python 6, then you have to concatenate that, and you have to make sure that this number is 6 is not a number, but it should be string. So we have another function called str, which basically converts your numbers to the string. Okay, like we have seen, there's a string, that is numeric string, can be converted using int function. So we have the other way as well, using str function. Correct. So let me add str as well. This is another built-in function. So these are some of the built-in functions we have seen so far. Okay, I'll just maintain this list. Maybe it is useful going forward for our references. So yeah, this is how we can use, and there are some more operators we can try and explore them, right? So let's say 2 to the power of 5, right? This is double star is a power operator. Let me take you through some of these operators for your eyes. So we will learn. So there are some built-in data types which we are now started exploring. For example, we have seen what is integer, float, and the string so far. But hold on, we will be discussing, so we don't need to really discuss complex, very rarely used, but yes, some of the important data structures we will be learning going forward, called tuple, list, dictionary, set. Okay, boolean and none are another type of objects here in Python, so those also we will be using going forward, and I'll explain about these objects then when we use. Okay. So yeah, these are the core objects, and these are the operators, the list of the operators, right? And more or less these operators are available in many other programming languages. But let's understand the basic arithmetic operations, what we perform using plus, minus, star, slash, and double star, percent, and double slash, right? So mostly we have used in many other programming languages. Probably double star and double slash is something you may find it new, or for those who are completely new to programming, so these are very basic operations which everyone understands. This is a plus, minus, star is a multiplication, slash is a division, and percent is a modulus division. Okay, let's understand double star is a power operation, and double slash is a floor division. Okay, so let's try. This is how the power we can use. Okay, so 100 to the power 100, so that's a huge number, and that's so powerful that Python does such calculations with so much of ease, right? We can easily add to 1 to 8 and we are still working, right? So we can perform operations on such a huge number, right? I remember I am from a C background, and I know, right, in C we can't store such a huge number, right, in any of the primitive data types, or for that matter in C++ as well, right? So we have to do something more to handle such a situation, but Python is seamless, right, simple. Anybody can write this and use it in your program. Okay, so this is how the double star operation is, and the double slash is used to do a floor division. That means normal slash is a single slash is just a division, it gives you 2.5, but if it is a double slash, floor division means a lower integer number, right, than whatever floating number you get, right? Even if it is let's say 5.4 by 2, the division is 2.7, but 5.4/2 is not a rounding up number, right? It is not rounded to the nearest integer to 2.7, but it is a lower integer number, right? So obviously, since the first argument is operand is floating, so the overall result is floating point number, but it takes you to the lower integer number as a output of floor division operator, right? So I will help you understand something called math. Okay, math is a library which we can import, which is a built-in module available in Python. So import is a keyword. As we discussed, there are some keywords. Keywords means these are some of the reserved words in Python. Okay, so these are some of the keywords here. So you will see that some of these keywords have a special meaning into the Python software. Okay, so we can use these keywords and as and when, and I will explain that time. Okay, so you can use the math library. We can use import keyword to import a math module in our program, right? Then what we get is we get power operation we can perform using POW, that is a module function. So which can be done, which is exactly the same thing what we are doing using double star operator, right? So similarly we have dot floor. Okay, so floor also does the same thing what we have done here, right? So we can see that the floor division is happening here and we are getting the output as 2. Okay, so that's a simple thing, and you can do a seal as well. I think the sealing means it gives you the higher integer number. Okay, so that's how seal works. Okay, so it is a lower and it is higher, right? There's no operator for seal in Python, but yeah, there is a trick we can do. We can probably do this. Okay, double slash, so this gives you a higher number and another negation will make you a seal here, right? So -3, we don't want -3 as output, so we will make one more negate, and that's how it does, right? So the same floor operation we can do with some trick and achieve what seal is doing for us, right? So that's why there is probably no need of a seal operator. So operators are handy than the functions. If it is quick thing, you could use directly these operators. But yes, math module, why do you use if power can be done, floor can be done, seal can be done using the operators, but there are some functions which we may not be able to use by some other means. So in that case, the module functions we can use like square root. Okay, so square root of 25, it automatically calculates and gives you the output. Okay, for that matter, I have one more built-in function, that is dir, which gives you a help of so many functionalities available with math module. Okay, you will find out so many functions. You check here the factorial, the facts, and the exponential. So those are some of the functions you might want to use, which is available in math module. Okay, for example, pi, right? What is the value of pi? So math.pi, math.pi, this gives you the value of a pi. Okay, you can use that very well. So this is about a module. So we learned something called a new keyword called import and a new built-in function, that is dir. But remember, sqrt, seal, floor, these are not built-in functions, but these are module functions. Okay, so I'm not including sqrt and power function here, but I can do dir function because dir is a built-in function, and other these functions like POW or floor, seal, sqrt, these are module functions. Okay, so I hope I'm making sense till this point. We are trying to speak of very basic things around the Python. Now the next important topic would be string, and we will try to explore some of the string functions and the Python programming constructs. So let's move on to the string. So where we have a basic string which looks like this. Python is fun, and we can print this string and we will see that what is the value, what is the contents of this particular object. Okay, and string function, as I just discussed, dir is a function we can use for any operator, for any object, to check what are the attributes and functions this particular object has. Okay, and we see that there are so many functions available here. Okay, so probably you can explore this. Let's move on and try, because I want you guys to explore these functions. For example, I'll just take one, and let's understand what capitalize will do. And look at this, right? Yes was having Python is fun, but yes dot capitalize will do return the capitalized version of Python, string, right? So you can check the help page. I pressed shift tab. This gives me the help page of this particular function. This function is not a built-in function, but it is a string objects function, right? It returns the capitalized version of Python, right? So it makes the first character the uppercase and rest it keeps as it is. So that's how the capitalize work. So I want you guys to explore these functions, and in the next video I will discuss as and when we want to use some of these functions. So I want you guys to explore, take the help page of all these functions one by one and observe what these functions does. Okay, okay guys, thank you. Let's move on to the next topic in the next video. Thank you.